I'm so glad to have someone from hardcore tech sales as my second guest. Abdul, my friend, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. How are you doing, bro?
Welcome, good man. I'm so glad to have you. I'm so glad to have someone from hardcore tech sales as my second guest. I wasn't expecting this, and I feel fortunate in having you here. So thank you so very much. Why don't you tell a little bit about yourself to my audience?
First of all, it's a pleasure to be here. I think you have a bit of salesman in you as well. When I asked
Oh,
you, what's the why behind this podcast, I was very compelled by your pitch and
mhm.
what you said because I think it's important being empathetic to the other side. I think is critical. That's why it's absolutely my pleasure to be here. But a little bit about myself. My name is Abdul Javed. I have the privilege and pleasure of leading Clary's APAC expansion. And Clary is a tool used by sales leaders
Mhm.
and finance leaders and revenue operations. And Clary exists to answer the most important business question, which is, are you going to meet, beat, or miss revenue? So basically, I'm a sales guy selling to salespeople, which makes for a very interesting, day to day.
So Clary is a crystal ball.
Something like that. Precisely, exactly.
Very nice, very nice. And how does a day look like for a VP of sales of a North American company
Correct.
in Australia?
So, I get asked that question in interviews when I'm interviewing
Hmm.
and people, and I kind of freak out when I get asked that question
Why is
because
that?
there's so many things, right? You speak to any seller or sales leader, there's every hour is different,
Hmm.
and I'll go from doing a cold call to leading a lunch with a bunch of the top APAC leaders. So if I try and distill the day to day, it actually fits into three buckets. Like at any given moment, I'm doing one of three things. I'm either creating sales pipeline,
Hmm.
running sales pipeline,
Hmm.
or closing sales pipeline. Everything I'm doing will fit into that. Now there'll be things that aren't that closely linked, and there'll be things that are. But I'll go from making a cold call to leading a lunch with APAC leaders. I'll go from that to preparing for a CEO meeting and creating a business case for a CFO. So I've got
Mm.
my consultant hat on. I'll go from that to answering a technical question where I'm probably a little bit out of my depth, but trying to do my best to answer the question. From that to going to a boxing class with my sales rep for a
Mm.
bit of bonding time and just to turn off the business mind and just relax and have a bit of fun.
How do you do that? Why don't you explain me a little bit? How do you open up with your own sales team and be empathetic towards them? What do you do?
I think I learned that when I got led by my leader in
Right.
a really great way. And one thing when I was trying to figure out like why do I really like this leader? Why do I really want to do well for her and for myself? And why am I learning so much from her? Why do I feel great? And I realized something. It's not something that's taught in a book. Like you mentioned, empathy.
Mm-hmm.
The other people I've worked for had empathy,
Mm-hmm.
but this particular leader, she actually really cared, right? Like she genuinely cared for my success, and
How did you know that? How did you know that? What exemplified the genuineness?
I have to say, it's not things she did. If I said it's things she did, then other leaders did that as well. They asked me how I'm doing. They spoke to me for 20 minutes about life before getting into business. All that stuff. It wasn't what she did, it was the feeling I got. It was a bit more genuine.
You can't explain it in words, but it's how she made you feel. Is that
Precisely.
yeah, yeah.
There was maybe some evidence of things she said, like she's really, because she cares, she's really paying attention.
Uh-huh.
And because she's really paying attention, she'll ask me about my wife, for example,
Mm.
and I'll think I told her that like 6 months ago.
Mm.
How did she remember? You know,
Those
and
small things.
because she just cared, and when you care about someone genuinely and you're aligned to them, that would be. But the other thing would be just our values were very similar. She's very transparent to the point, but also crafty about it, and I like receiving information that way. So at a values level, we'll very much align in terms of transparency. So that makes things easier.
And you don't have to do it, but you want to give her a shout?
Yeah, I do. The leader is Holly Proctor, and if she was listening to this, she knows it's her. So yeah, Holly Proctor.
Holly Proctor. And where is she working right now?
Now she's the CRO at a company called Incredible Health. She just joined recently, and they're going quite rapidly, and I'm
Hmm.
very excited for her.
In Australia or in
In
North
US.
America? In US.
In
Okay.
US.
All right. That's nice. That's nice. Sorry.
That's right.
So I always digress with these kind of interesting conversations, right? But you were saying that, my question was how does someone expand in APAC, leading APAC from sales point of view, and the business is North America? What are the challenges?
The challenges of taking a North American company, which is obviously there's a lot, to expand into APAC. The first challenge would be the hiring. Like
Mm.
you got to hire the first people, and different to other roles where I walked into a team. I'm making the team from scratch. So the first thing is hiring people that have the sales ability,
Mm-hmm.
but they also have that entrepreneurial spirit because you're going to be figuring a lot of things out. You
True.
have to be very resourceful. So the type of people that are able to figure things out, that's the first thing, the hiring. Then once you've done the hiring, you've hired the right people, then you have to go and get customers.
Mm.
And the two questions are, who do you go after,
Mm-hmm.
which accounts,
Mm-hmm.
and which people do you go after?
Mm-hmm.
Two very simple questions, and there's
Mm-hmm.
like layers of complexity.
True. It's not easy. Yeah.
It's not simple. And this notion of we'll copy paste what we did in North America
Not gonna work.
oftentimes doesn't work. I'm sure there's someone listening to this saying, no, it worked for me. Oftentimes doesn't work.
It's not gonna work.
Yeah.
It never does. And I've worked with the organizations who have got their head office in North America, but they were pretty smart. They knew that the playbook in North America is not going to work in ANZ or APAC, and they give that power within the team, or they give that enablement. And you saying that confirms my point. But please go on this one. I'm very interested in this one.
No, for sure. You're absolutely right. I think the other way as well. So
Mhm.
APAC companies expanding to North America, they have to kind of learn the business language that goes with it. And what's successful here might not be successful there. So the second thing there would be, so the hiring, then the next thing would be figuring out which companies to go after. And that is really complicated because it's a lot of data, right?
Mm.
I think if you get this is the concept of ideal customer profile.
Mhm.
If you get ideal customer profile right, then every other bit of energy you use is going to be high impact,
Mhm.
right? So if you're going after the right people at the right companies at the right time, your funnel is going to progress faster. You're going to get more in the funnel because you're going after them, and it makes for just a better setting up experience.
So
And if you get that wrong,
mhm.
it's gonna go the other
Just
way.
on that one, and hold that thought for the
I
next
will.
points, because again, my bad habit, I like to
That's
digress.
right.
I'm so happy you used that word ICP, ideal customer profile. I thought the ICP was owned by marketing, right? We use ICP a lot of time. It's so refreshing to hear ICP from a sales leader. How do you make sure that you've got the right ICP? Because I for a fact know that not a lot of sales team use that word ICP. So how do you ensure that you have got the right ICP?
So in choosing the ICP, I would say there's the bullseye, and then there's the center of the bullseye. The bullseye is data that is very measurable that you
Mm-hmm.
can go and get from somewhere. For example, as I said, I sell to salespeople, so the licenses I sell is the bigger the sales team, the more licenses.
Mm-hmm.
The obvious variable there, how many salespeople do you have? Now that's pretty measurable. You can get it on LinkedIn, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first bit of data, right? The other thing is what industry are they in? What's their business model? So let's say you get all the objective stuff and you got your bullseye.
Bullseye.
That's a good start. Then this is when it gets hard. This is when it gets a bit more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Then you end up getting meetings with these customers. Then you start actually figuring out what's at the center of the bullseye. And at the center of the bullseye, what we've realized is there's a few more things that need to be in place for our product to make sense. So to answer your question, how do we come up with ICP? We look at the variables that are very measurable,
Mm-hmm.
and then when we meet these customers, it's not selling; it's them educating us on their situation, us learning from that, and us educating them on
Mm-hmm.
if we can help them, and if we can, immediately we've hit the center of the bullseye, and if we miss, we need to aim somewhere else. So to answer your question, taking those variables that are easy to access, measurable, doing that's the secondary research, then doing the primary research within the customer, then refining, and then coming up with a plan. Okay, this is who we're going to go after. These are the ideal customers.
Right. So you qualify and disqualify quickly, right?
Very
You do it very quickly and you go like, yeah, I've spoken to these folks. Yes, they qualify my bullseye test, but they don't qualify the scent of the bullseye test. So get rid of them. Let's focus on these many people only, and hit them hard. Is what you're saying, right?
precisely. And the first 6 months was figuring that out.
Oh, really?
Because only then can I say, okay, to my marketing team, okay, these are the customers that we want to advertise to, and this is the messaging. Without the primary, secondary research, you're just shooting blind, and you might get some hits, and you might think, oh, this is all right, but you're missing out on the you're missing out on more opportunities because, again, you're not speaking to those people that are high propensity to buy.
High propensity to buy. Yeah, spoken like a true salesman.
Yeah, exactly.
But tell me one thing, right? You said something very interesting. You said that then I take all that information to my marketing team. I tell them, this is who you're going to target with that messaging, right? That's, again, a very refreshing thing to hear, is that you tell them what the messaging would be. How do you come up with the messaging?
How do I come up with the messaging? So it's first and foremost learning from what has been successful in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, it's putting that through what I've learned in APAC.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's about taking that to marketing.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I'm very blessed. I have a very talented marketing team. And I don't tell them to give me the messaging. We sit together and they advise me. So I tell them, this is what I'm hearing. Then they advise me on, this is what you could say. Some of it, very rarely is it completely my decision. A lot of it is their advice and me just taking it on.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I come up with the messaging? It will be, taking what we've got from US, applying that through the APAC filter,
Mm-hmm.
and then leveraging my marketing team to polish it up, clean it up, and then going out from there. But it also depends which messaging. If we're talking about what we're advertising on like digital platforms, that messaging, my marketing team is going to help me with that. That's their strength. But when you talk about the direct marketing, the email, the call, the LinkedIn message, that is going to be my team. And the way we come up with that is through what we've learned from the discussion.
Right. And I think that's the right way to go, because when you're talking directly to your prospects, right, it needs to have that Abdul flair in it. It needs to have that kind of taste in it, so they know that it's coming from Abdul. That's how he talks. That's how he cracks jokes, right? And then it becomes very personalized. And I've seen a lot many people missing that. That to stand out in your email communication, you need to inculcate your personality in that email. That's how you stand out. And I think that's, again, so many refreshing things I'm hearing from you. But please go on. So what's next about being successful in APAC?
In terms of being successful in APAC, the next thing I would add to that is, a lot of reps treat sales as a 100-meter race, and they're on their own and they just got to run. But in reality, in my experience and in my observation, sales is actually, sorry, can I pause there?
Yeah.
This answer, I think I'll get it when you ask me about marketing more directly.
Yeah.
But your question about APAC expansion,
Mm-hmm.
what's next? I'd say, so I'll start the answer now. So the next thing on APAC expansion, once you've figured out the ICP,
Mm-hmm.
is actually rolling out the strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And I was very blessed to have a lot of mentoring as I was going through this.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was advised on was like paying someone to get their advice on what to do. Now that's the best type of primary research, because people are going to be candid. They're not in a buying, selling interaction.
Yep.
And that just paved the way. So when I was able to do some of these paid mentoring, paid advisor sessions with people, they were able to tell me, Abdul, you went through this pitch. This didn't resonate. This really did resonate. And that therefore kind of brought up my second phase of the strategy, which was, now we've figured out who we want to go after. Now we're going to go after them. And these are the 5-6 ways that we're going to do it, with the digital streams, the physical events, and also the direct marketing. So now we're at that phase, and now we're trying to refine the sales cycle and so on and so forth.
It seems, Abdul, you do a lot of preparation before going on a sales pitch. Would that be the right thing to say?
I would say that should be the minimum expectation.
Mm.
When I'm speaking to someone, they've given me an hour,
Mm-hmm.
the least I can do is spend 15 minutes, half an hour doing my research. So whenever I jump on a call with a prospect,
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes they're almost relieved that I've done my research and I'm not asking them questions I can find online. Like the information age is great because
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of information out there,
Mm-hmm.
and prospects can do their own research.
Yep.
So it goes both ways. The seller can do their own research. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to go deep into all of the things that I need to know before I jump on the call. And I found that I owe them that much. They're giving me an hour of their
Mm-hmm.
day
Mm-hmm.
for no reason. They have no idea if it's going to be worthwhile for
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
And I owe them that much to do my own research,
Mm-hmm.
find the most compelling reason, and sit with them. In the same way I asked you, what's the reason for this podcast? You were able to sell me on it. I think at a minimum, I deserve that to do that for my prospects. And it doesn't take long. It doesn't take long. Like LinkedIn research, Zoom info, insight into what's going on in their business, reading a bit of their annual review. Customers feel so relieved when
Mm-hmm.
you do that, and I think that for me is just minimum expectation, just on a respect thing. But if you get your ICP right, that energy is worthwhile because you're like certain, hey, I can sell to this person.
Mm-hmm.
If you get your ICP wrong, and you're doing so many meetings, you're not going to have that time to prepare. So that's when I think things start falling apart.
Right, right. And you did speak very highly about your marketing team. But I want to take a step back from your experience with Clary's marketing team, but your experience with marketing team. So what happens is a lot many times I've seen, and in my life as well, I've had good days and bad days with sales. Till day, I will always choose to help my sales team because I know what they go through. I know the rigor involved. I know the hard work involved. Right, I wouldn't be able to stand that. Honest to God. But yes, they do fight. They do fight a lot. They do disagree a lot. Has your experience been like that, where you disagree on things?
With marketing specifically,
Yeah,
or
yeah. With marketing.
I'd say it's a really good question, and there is a bit of this sentiment of what does marketing even do,
Ah,
and the
yes.
sentiment of what does sales even do.
Mm.
So I can understand where the question is coming from. In terms of negative experiences, I've realized that there's two types of marketing people I've worked with.
Mm-hmm.
One who's really closed off and they lack empathy. They haven't taken the time to figure out why sales is important and what they go through. Now, you just made some comments about how hard it is, right? That to me is an indication of empathy.
Mm-hmm.
That's one type where they're a bit closed off. The other type is more empathetic. They get what sales is trying to do. They get the challenges and they speak the sales language.
Mm-hmm.
And I found working with them is great. And also, they're very transparent. This is my budget. This is what I'm thinking. This is what will impact.
Mm-hmm.
My marketing person asked me, like, how can I help you progress deals? I was never asked that question before.
Oh, right.
Right? And in the same way, sales do that often as well.
Mm-hmm.
What does marketing even do? Right? And I would say that between the two, the great experience has been because of the empathy that my marketing person knows what I'm going through, and at the same time I've returned that,
Mm-hmm.
and I've made sure that I know exactly what they're going through with the budget that we have. What are they leaning towards? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And do they understand my market? And that's why it's been great working with my marketing person, because we're able to just understand each other. High empathy, high transparency, and that's been really great.
Mm-hmm. I think these are some golden words for any marketing sitting out there. And I'll pick one of the sentences that you used here, right? Understanding what the sales team needs with something as simple as what can I do to help you progress your deals is so powerful, is so impactful. I'll be honest, I have done this few times and you will be surprised, right? Because being in tech, being a tech marketer, you have to see pipeline. You have to have good coverage of pipeline, right? So say, for example, if it's an APAC, you got to see, you got to make 1.2 million of ACV, say, for example, in the next 2 quarters. And for that, on a 30% conversion, say, for example, you may need around, I don't know, 4 million worth of pipeline. Right now, the pipeline is only at, say, for example, 2 million, right? I'll reach out to my sales team. Okay, we have a limited budget, so I can't grow the pipeline. But you have got few deals in the pipeline. What can we do to progress it, right? And at times they have come up with one of the most excellent ideas, right? So back in the days, few years ago, I asked this to one of my rep, and he said, it would be good if we can get all the decision makers from our prospects in a room and make them the hero. I'm like, okay, that is doable. Yeah, that's doable. You invite your prospects in a room, right? And then you let them talk among themselves, and then you tell them, this is yours, this is your platform. You take it, you tell us how to do things better, right? And we'll learn from it, and they will appreciate it, right? And that actually helped, right? It didn't help me getting 5 deals, got me 1 deal off the line, but it was, I think, for me, the start of arranging executive roundtables, which we all love.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and this was long time ago, right? So I get the point, right? So marketers out there, if you're listening to this, this is a very important question. If you need to ask the sales team, if you want to have a good relationship with your sales team, is how can I help to progress your deals, right? That's good. That's
And
good.
if I could ask you, Raul,
Hmm.
I've got a few questions that I like to ask my marketing person, which is how's the ROI on the campaigns you've done for me,
Mm-hmm.
and second of all, how's the conversion? So I know what the KPI is,
Mm-hmm.
and I question, how is that going, and is there anything I can do to enhance that? So I'm keen to hear what are some great questions that I could ask my marketing person to again build that empathy and alignment.
Okay. So within the marketing, you would be asking it to someone who is doing field marketing for you.
Both digital and field.
Yeah, field and digital, right? So uh, everyone sort of starts from, if I'm a marketer today in Australia, the one thing I'll go like, hey, listen, can you please, if there is a deal that originated from this campaign, can you please market to us so we can show the business that this came. This is a prerequisite, right? So asking a question that, hey, listen, this is the list of my deals currently. Um, can you let me know which deals you think came from the campaign or had some sort of attribution to your campaign? Um, if only in the situation where the marketer is not across the pipeline. I think marketers should be across the pipeline at all times, right? Marketers should have half brain of sales, right? But if they're not, this is something that you can ask. The second question you can ask is, because marketing is working on tight budget, right? Very tight budget. And instead of going and asking, I want to do this event, I want to do that event, I want to spend money here, I want to spend money there, right? Going there and saying, hey, listen, I want to make this much money. I have to, right? And I think 30% of that can come from the activities that we can do, right? Based on how much budget we have, where can we spend it? What do you recommend? I tell you honestly, honest to God, marketers have a very good idea of where to spend money, where they can get the maximum bang for buck. Last thing, very important, and I know marketers are not going to like this, or maybe they would, give them honest feedback. And if a campaign is not working, don't say it's a shit campaign, right? They will anyone will close their ear off if you start your sentence with, this is a shit campaign. I don't want to hear it. Be specific. I didn't like this campaign because the leads that came through were from the accounts that didn't have the propensity to buy, your words, right? They were not my ICP. If I am in their place, I'll go like, dude, next time I'm not going to sponsor this event. To hell with this, right? Because next time, if that particular campaign comes from my sponsorship, I'll go like, no. I have factual data to prove that my money is not good with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So these three things, from my opinion, will really help someone like me.
Very nice. Can
Yeah.
I add one more bonus?
Yeah, yeah,
to
please,
that?
please.
In sales, the success and failure is very measurable, so
Mhm.
you can see who's doing well, who's not.
Mm.
In marketing, there is a measure, but it's a little bit more elusive. It is a bit more on reputation. So I've made a point to whenever I get a great outcome from marketing, I make sure to shout it from the rooftops and not,
Mm.
not just just treat it like it was nothing and really allow them to shine because we'll get our shine at President's Club and on all hands, but making it front of mind for everyone.
Yeah, that's actually giving a shout to your marketing team when it happens is quite noble. I'll say. Yeah, they do go through a lot of stress. I don't. I try and avoid saying that yes, we have problems, we have challenges, but yes, we do go through a lot of that, and that really helps. That really helps. Now coming back to this, a lot of people talk about this. A lot of people in marketing talk about this, but I think it's more of a sales play as well. I think it's 60% sales, 40% marketing. But I want to get your thoughts on this. ABM.
Account-based marketing.
Yeah.
So, in thoughts in terms of what exactly?
It's effectiveness, your experience, and what can you do better?
In terms of effectiveness, I would say that it needs to be done
Mm-hmm.
for again that center of the bullseye.
Mm.
And the reason it needs to be done at the center of the bullseye, those accounts that you know are the right fit, is because, especially with an APAC expand scenario, a lot of the time we're in not selling mode, we're in education mode.
Mm.
And we have to take the customer, the prospect, sorry, through a journey. And it's not a transaction. It's not we meet, we run a sales cycle. It's an education process. So we found that there's a lot of closed loss deals before there's a closed one. And that's just a natural consequence of we're in the business of creating new budget. The customer's never spent money on this before.
Mm-hmm.
They've never spent money on this. So when you're going through that experience, there's a lot of education that takes place. That's where account-based marketing comes in. For my big bet accounts, we have to do it because, as we know, number one, there's a lot of people involved in the buying process.
Mm-hmm.
You can't get across them by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Second of all, a lot of these people, they're not going to take a call with you. You're a low priority,
Mm.
right? This isn't budgeted. This item isn't budgeted. Why am I going to do it? So it's important to get into their psyche
Mm-hmm.
a lot more. So that's why I would say for those two reasons, if you have the budget, ABM becomes critical. And if you do it to the right accounts, like the ABM that we're doing is only to accounts I've already spoken to that I know are on that journey, and I want to kind of speed it up, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that when I call someone from that company, what won't happen is, what the hell's Clary? What will happen is, I saw
Yeah.
it, I heard it from that person, I heard it from this person, I kind of figure out what you guys do. Go on, what? And then, it just accelerates
They're
everything.
more aware.
Exactly. I'd imagine for some companies it's a bit of a privilege to have the ability to do it. We certainly have the ability, and I've been using it for those accounts that I feel very high conviction in, and the accounts that I've already got in. So in terms of effectiveness, I'd say it's a lot of money. So I spend it wisely in the really strong places where I know that the pain that the customer is experiencing is quite high.
Mm. It's flabbergasting that people don't understand how expensive ABM can be, but it's equally surprising that people sometimes don't understand how rewarding it can be. It's a high expense, high rewarding activity. So hence it makes sense when you say it's only for some of the focused accounts, my big accounts where I can get a big ticket item.
Precisely. And I'm going to just double click into that. I think for people that don't understand the effectiveness of ABM, I don't think they've fully appreciated the way people are buying at the moment. I don't think they've really
Expand
got
on that.
What I mean by that is, I'll give you the story and then I'll tell you how
Okay.
I learned from that, from my prospect. I jump on a call with a prospect, and we got the meeting because of a cold call. So we did the usual. He jumps on, hey, looking forward to learning about your business. What triggered you to take this call? Sometimes people have different answers, but this particular guy said, so for some reason I follow someone at your company and I keep seeing their posts. I also saw the LinkedIn advertisements. Then I saw your email and you connected with me. Then a friend mentioned it about 6 months ago, and then I got a cold call from your BDR, and yeah, here we are 3 months later after that and doing this meeting, and it just made me realize that the amount of touches that need to take place
Yeah.
for someone to make something a priority and to investigate, evaluate, sorry, if it's a worthwhile thing to evaluate, and that made me realize that the importance of marketing. And the analogy I'll use is a lot of sales reps think that selling is a 100-meter race and they're just on their own. But selling is more like a relay. And the salesperson is the last runner.
Hmm.
They take the baton, the MQL, and they take it home. But as I said in my example, there was multiple touches from this customer before we made a cold call, which I would say it's a warm call at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and got the meeting. And the or salesperson's job is to take the last leg of the race. But every other part is super critical, and
Mm-hmm.
that digital part is so underestimated. The messaging part, the product marketing, all these aspects of marketing that happen in the first three legs of the race, they're so underestimated because for some people it doesn't feel tangible. It's just like, oh, I made this call and that was it. But people these days aren't taking calls. They're not spending time unless they have some kind of evidence or some kind of feeling that this is going to be worth my time. So using the relay example, I would say that last leg of the race is just the human touch of marketing. Uh, and the other bits, the digital touches, they're extremely important as well. And that's why, for those who appreciate that, they realize that this is the way customers are buying today, and this is the criticality of like an ABM type campaign.
Hmm. You're not in marketing, right?
I'm not. Well, I am with the last leg, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
true, true. I expand, not expand, can I go deep dive into a particular topic?
Sure.
And you mentioned you brought this up, right? So it's your fault. So, question around how customers buy today, right? You said people don't understand how they're buying today. What is your experience? How are they buying today? This is very important for people to understand if they're in sales. How do customers buy today, as compared to 10 years ago, as compared to your Oracle days?
Yeah. How are customers buying today? So I'd say I try and think about how am I buying today. If I was to buy something, what would make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I think we're forgetting like now and 10 years ago and 30 years ago. Like let's look at it at a first principles perspective. The thing is, in business, when you're selling to a business, the first thing is humans are making the decisions. So for now, humans are making decisions. But for now, humans are still making the decisions. And what that means is you're dealing with humans, which means you're dealing with one of the foundational things that I think about, which is humans make emotional decisions
Mm-hmm.
and justify them with logic.
Right,
I'll
I've
repeat
heard
that.
that. Yeah,
Humans make emotional decisions and justify it
with
with
logic.
logic. So, regardless of time when this was happening, today, the equation is still the same. So, I would say when it becomes hard to sell, something is falling apart in the emotion and logic equation. And if things are going right, something is working on the emotion and logic equation. Now, how people get to the emotional decision, how they get to the logical decision, that's obviously changed. That's changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I would say customers are buying today in the B2B enterprise landscape is, this logic needs to be really firm, the emotion needs to be really firm, and there has to be this. There's a lot of fear of failure at the moment, given macro conditions,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to look after. You have to make sure that the fear of failure is diminished,
Mm-hmm.
and the drive for success is stronger than the fear of failure. And that's the only way deals are getting across the line at the moment. So
Mm-hmm.
that's been my observation.
And this equation of emotional versus logic, which is quite prevalent in marketing as well, because marketing bases, good marketing bases a lot of its content around emotions,
Yeah,
right? Because once you affect the psychology of a customer or a prospect, they are with you,
exactly.
right? Because logic you can change, emotions it's long lasting, right? And in B2B tech sales, from a sales point of view, not a marketing point of view, how do you affect emotions? It's a complicated questions, I know, but please take your time and give, if you can give
Yeah.
me an answer.
I would say it's something that we think about a lot, especially in this landscape
Hmm.
where there's a lot more to lose for customers. So I'd say that taking the first principles of emotions and logic, for every interaction, customer engagement that we have, we try and do the medic check. Medic is a sales
Yeah.
qualification method,
Did you do
and
medic or med pick?
Medpic or Medic. I
Medic.
think
Okay.
there's a few names.
Yeah.
I've been using Medic, so I'm just
Yeah.
gonna stick to that. But Medic gets thrown out around a lot, and Medic actually covers the emotional side. There's in Medic, there's one of the C's is champion, and when I look at champion, I'm asking myself, what's the why for this champion? And within the why, I'm asking, what do they get if it succeeds? What happens if they fail?
Mm.
Right? And that emotional side, we're constantly tapping into that because, as I said, we're the human touch of marketing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're calling someone, they answer, they get a rush of emotions like, "Oh, it's the Clary rep," or
Mm-hmm.
"I'm excited, it's the Clary rep,"
Mm-hmm.
and it's important that we figure that out. So I'm constantly asking myself like, what's in it for that person? So marketers are asking, what do we advertise to trigger some emotions? I'm asking at the human level, how do
Mm-hmm.
I make sure that I understand this person's drive for success or failure?
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully that answers your
It
question.
does. It does. It does basically. And you rightly say MedPick has got that element of, say, where you pick your champion and then you play around their motivations. Success and failure are emotions, right? It's your mindset. It's your state of mind. My success after using something like Clary would be to get a promotion. And if you come today and show me that using your tool, I'm going to get a promotion in the next 6 months because I'll be so accurate in my forecast, you have hit the ball,
Exactly.
right? I'm going to talk to you because I love my promotion.
Exactly.
I love what it brings. It brings me a new car. It brings another holiday with my wife or spend some more time. It brings me a new team. So there's all sorts of facets that you can. It's an amazing world of emotions that you can play around with,
Exactly.
and then being very customer centric because what you're saying is, hey, look what my product does. No, hey, look how it can help you, right? You're being very customer centric, and I really love about that. I think that's why I think Clary is being successful. I hope it is. I have used actually Clary
Oh,
before.
very nice.
Yeah, I've used it before. Back in the days in Alltricks, I think. Yeah,
Okay, right.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I've used
Matrix,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty good, pretty good. Uh, so jumping on from being very tactful and technical here in our terminology, why is sales misunderstood?
Why is sales misunderstood? I think there's a book called "To Sell Is Human" that covers this idea, and it really
Mm.
helped me figure out the job we do and why it's perceived the way it's perceived. My answer is this: the reason it's misunderstood is in the past, when you're dealing with a salesperson, they had all the information
Mm-hmm.
and you had limited information.
Hmm.
So that's called information asymmetry, right?
Mm-hmm.
It didn't exist. Like they had more, you had less, right? So if you were buying a car, that person knew if there was something wrong with it. The seller knew, and they'll hide it from you to get their deal
Mm-hmm.
across the line,
Mm-hmm.
which meant there was this natural feeling of uneasiness. Like
Mm-hmm.
they have the power of information. Now that's changed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times when you're buying a car, you've decided I'm going to buy this car, and you're going around to get the best price.
Hmm.
So I'd say that's that's why it's misunderstood. It's because we have our experiences with salespeople is they're trying to trick me into doing something.
Hmm.
They have more information than I do, and they're going to use it against me. And that's why when you're dealing with a salesperson, there's this feeling of uneasiness, and now it's a little bit different. When people want to speak to a salesperson, it's because they've already decided that they want to buy this type of tool and they're deciding which one. And even then, there's this, the information asymmetry isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
The customer's thinking, I think I can get a better price, and the prospect's thinking, the customer's thinking, I think I can get a better price, and the rep's thinking, how do I get the most out of this deal? And that immediately is a misalignment in values. They're
Mm-hmm.
like misalignment in goals actually.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to, there's just that battle,
Mm-hmm.
and I would say that's why it's misunderstood. Aside from that, I think sales is misunderstood because I think it's hard to grasp how hard sales is until you do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's very hard. It's just like watching someone play cricket and then you're thinking,
Yeah, I
I
can do
could do
that.
that. Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And then when you actually try and you realize, right? It's kind of like first time I played golf, I thought I could do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I just found myself like bending my elbow because of cricket. I'm used to
Yeah.
it and missing the ball. And I was like, what? This is supposed to be easy. So I think it's just very hard to appreciate how hard it is to sell until you actually
Actually
do
do
it.
it.
And then
Yeah.
aside from that, I would say a lot of reps don't do the ethical thing. They're
Oh, is
not
it?
transparent.
Mm-hmm.
They're a bit too pushy.
Mm-hmm.
They lack empathy. So if that's out of 10 reps, 5 reps are doing that. The other 5 are gonna cop the same
Mm-hmm.
reputation.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say there's some valid reasons for this perception or misunderstanding, and then there's some kind of invalid ones
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And is your background from sales, or just like all of us, it's engineering?
I've actually always done sales. Marketing was my degree, and then
Oh,
sales.
so
Yeah,
you're the pure breed.
yeah, correct,
That's
correct.
good. That's great. That's great. Right. So that's really good to know, and I like your point of view around why sales is misunderstood, and that knowledge alignment. In fact. In my first episode, I had Sam, who is a digital marketer and owns his own agency, and he said that the way people buy is changed, and he told me the same thing. Before, sales used to have that power of knowledge, so they could steer the conversation in a direction where they will get you to buy. But now customers are already aware of so many things, and they already know what they have to buy and the reasons. And so you have to do a lot of preparation beforehand, and when they come to you, it's all about your personality. It's all
Nice.
about how comfortable they are with you, how ethical they perceive you are, and they go like, yeah, Javed is a good bloke. Oh,
Exactly.
I want to do business with him. I want to do business with
If
him.
I could add one more point
Yeah.
to that, the information age has meant that we all have a lot of information,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also meant that we have too much information,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore it makes it harder for a buyer to make decisions because of too much
Too
information.
much information.
So therefore now the rep became the holder information. Now the rep is the curator of information. Like this is everything. And let me simplify it for you here. And I think the reps that are doing really great at the moment are the reps that say, this might be a fit, it might not.
Mm-hmm.
I want to help you go through that experience,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll curate the information. Also, the power now for the rep is information that I have
Mm-hmm.
that only I have.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my mind, it's in my brain. No one else in Australia maybe has spoken to 100 CROs and revenue teams.
Mm-hmm.
I have, and therefore that is useful to someone if I can curate it in the right way, and I'll find that people when we meet them, whether they buy or not buy, I think they get value from the discussion because we're able to curate that mass of information and give them some information that cannot be found anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And moving to my next question, and probably the last part of our discussion, is because I want to get some tactical. We have, but I want to get some more tactical giveaways to my audience that they can learn from you. And I see this a lot on LinkedIn. People posting, "Oh, cold calling is dead. Email is dead. Social media is dead. This is dead. That is." They are there to just make everyone dead, right?
Yeah.
Now, from a marketer's point of view, I understand everything has got its place because I need to think objectively. From a sales point of view, what works best? If you have to, if you hire tomorrow BDR or SDR, and you have to give that person a split between emailing and cold calling and sending in-mails, LinkedIn in-mails, how would you split that? What would be your advice on that?
So, so I won't give advice, but I'll give insight. So I'll
Sure.
share something, not because it might not apply to everyone. So that's the first thing. Then I'll say unless I have my marketing and my messaging on point,
Mm-hmm.
unless I feel like it's resonating, I'm not going to hire a BDR. Now let's
Mm.
create a world where the messaging I feel is resonating, and now we've hired a BDR. Then I want to figure out between all of the modes, I call these modes, right? Email, calling, and everything. What is going to be most successful? If you look at the data, email works 1 or 2% of the time. If you ask anyone, they would say that it barely works. That's
Wow.
the answer, right?
Mm.
Email barely works because you're gonna get a 1 or 2% response. Then LinkedIn also, if you look at the data, it barely works. Like the amount of hits that you have to do to get a response,
Yep.
it barely works. And then calls as well. Obviously, people get irritated, and a lot of the time it doesn't work as well. So then it's like, what does work? What is the place, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say for us, it works great and the reason is we've optimized everything. So first of all, we figured out who definitely needs to hear this message,
Mm.
like definitely needs to hear it. Once we got that list, that's the foundation. Then we
Mm.
say, what do they need to hear?
Mm.
Well, I validated that because I spoke to 100 CROs, right?
Mm.
So I'll validate that as well. Okay, great. Now I feel a bit more confidence.
Mm.
Now I could say, hey, the people I'm going after and the message I'm going to give them, I have a high degree of confidence it's going to resonate. And only then have we hired a BDR. Only then have we said email, LinkedIn, and
Calling.
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 So once that's happened, you're going to get some natural people in the funnel because you've turned on digital advertising. Great. Then we want to optimize every single aspect. So we want to optimize the email. The email needs to be hyper personalized, hyper personalized for them as a person,
Mm-hmm.
personalized for the business as well. So
Mm-hmm.
before we reach out, we're doing research on the business. So you when you read it, you are going to be curious. So we've optimized for email. We've added best practices. I'm so grateful. I work with Devin Reed and
Mm-hmm.
Kyle Coleman, who are like the gurus in this space.
Mm-hmm.
They have like thousands of followers,
Mm-hmm.
and learning from them is just being able to optimize that email step. Then the LinkedIn step as well, optimizing that, making sure that what you're posting on LinkedIn is incredibly valuable. And I've found that's made a big difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
people are spending a lot of time on LinkedIn. Like
Mm.
I've had to delete the app because I'll get hooked on it, right?
Yeah.
Just mindless scrolling. And people are spending a lot of time. And if you offer that, hey, I'm hopeful that my post will be valuable to you. It keeps them remembering Clary. Then finally, I would say
Mm-hmm.
only then can you say the core step is the most effective.
Mm-hmm.
But what we found again is when we've made these calls, the customer's like, "Oh, Clary, call me back."
Mm.
Like it's now I'm ready for a callback. It's never Clary what
What, Clary
who.
who? Yeah.
It's always that. And then once we've decided to make the call, it feels quite warm for these reasons. So to answer the question, like what works, it's hard to answer because if statistically speaking, I would say the core works the best
Mm-hmm.
only if you've done all the other steps,
Other
right?
steps.
If
Yeah.
going back to the relay race example, if you've done all of those, then that last leg you'll run fast and you'll come first, right? But if you've done none of those, it doesn't matter how fast you go, it doesn't matter how great the cold call is, it's not going to work, and
Mm.
that's what I've found.
Everything has to work in a symphony.
Exactly right.
That's how you will get the best music. I think
Exactly
so.
right.
Yeah.
Exactly
Yeah, that's really great. Coming to our last part, I would say you are a successful salesperson, right? I would say you have done it in your career. You are someone where people would look up to, right? If they want to join sales. And for folks who want to get into sales as a career, uh, two or three advices if you can give.
It's a great question. First of all, thank you. Second of all, I would say that for people who have decided to get into sales is very different to my answer for people wanting to get into sales. But first, I'll tackle the first one of people who have decided to get into sales.
Mm-hmm.
I would say just be honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is not for everyone.
Right.
It's not for everyone. It's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And it can, I find two types of people in sales. One who loves it. It feels like a game. It's like they're playing. It's a game, and it's very natural to them. For other people, they're there to pay the rent. A lot of people fell into sales and they're just there to pay the rent. I'd say if you feel like you're not really excited by it, then go find something else early because you can. Because I meet a lot of people, they've been in sales for 15 years and they're wishing they did something else. Sales is not the place to be if you don't naturally gravitate towards it. But if you've figured out I do want to be in sales, the insight I would share then is, and I wish someone gave me this when I started, is that how to do the job. First of all, try and read something. Just always be reading something regarding sales. Second of all, don't just build sales skills, build business skills. Like even something like managing a to-do list, right? Those business skills are really important as well. The other thing I'd say is have mentors. Like really, go out of your way to get mentors. Aside from that, I think people early in their career, and I made this mistake, didn't spend enough time on figuring out like who do I want to work for and who do I want to sell for. It's just like, oh yeah, my ex-manager went there, I'll go follow them. There wasn't like rigor on the decision-making process of who do I work for and what do I sell. And that has more impact. You could be a great seller, but if you're not sitting at the right place for the right people, you're going to be miserable. So kind of increase your standard and say, hey, I'm going to work for the people that align with my values, and I'm going to work for a company that is aligning with my values, but also growing in the way I need it to. So they're the 3-4 things I would suggest people who have made the decision to get into sales.
That's really great, and I'm so happy when there's so many points of enlightenment for the audience who wants to get into sales. And I would say sales is the career, right? Yes, you want to get into med school, go into med school, right? You have that passion of helping people, go. You want to become a lawyer, go into the law school. You want to become an engineer, go and study engineering, right? If you want to become a salesperson, go for it. Sales, I think, is a skill that is going to teach you a lot of things, not just about the corporate world, but about the life as it is, right? It is helpful in every part of the life, the selling as a skill. So don't listen to, because I come from India, I always listen to this, you got to either be a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer. Don't listen to all that shit, right? Sales is one of the best careers you can be in because it is very rewarding from a finance point of view if you give your best shot. It is very exciting if you play it as a game, and it teaches you life lessons which no other profession will teach you, right? With that, my friend, thank you so much.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.